Welcome to Module 5. Module 5 is self-knowledge and all about you. So you are going to engage in several assessments where you're going to get to know your strengths, your weaknesses, your preferences. And we're going to tie this into how can you use the information in your college classes, and then also what are some career connections based on your strengths. So looking at the overview of Module 5 and the course objectives and the module objectives, we're going to basically get an understanding with our vocabulary of what self-knowledge is, and then describe the results of your learning style, your multiple intelligences, your personality, and character strengths, along with you're going to identify and be able to assess your critical and creative thinking. Now, in Module 5, this quiz is going to be proctored through HonorLock, which is a company that we've hired at Indian River State College. This is required in order for us to maintain our accreditation for online courses. So there is more information about that in the module, even when you click on the quiz, or looking at the navigational tool that says HonorLock 1.3. So there's specific requirements. It will not have 2 attempts. It's only going to have 1 attempt. And you're going to be restricted to using a computer laptop. If you need to have access to a computer, you can take this quiz at any of our campuses across the 4-county area. But this is a requirement in order for you to receive a successful grade for the Module 5. So look for that information on the Module 5 quiz. I'll be posting out an announcement to kind of bring that information to the forefront, but it is also here. So we have our to-do list on what we need to do, and I'm just going to go ahead and get started with the first learning activity. So this one is a PDF file about the learning process. It's going to introduce the VARK self-assessment, which is going to give you your learning assessments, your learning styles. And then also here in this learning activity, it gives you some information on how you can use this to excel in your courses, and then also what are possible career matches based on your results. We have 2 areas that are identified here, as we haven't previously, that will identify what would be covered in the quiz. So you also want to take note of the multiple intelligences theory from Howard Gardner. Here we have a link to the assessment. We also have careers. We have classroom connections. Now keep in mind, as you're doing these assessments, again, this course is open-ended resources, so we're using resources that are on the internet. If for some reason a company is taking their website down, or if they're having problems with it, they don't necessarily notify us to let us know that. So if you have any difficulty, what you want to do is make sure to go back and that you've gotten the correct link. Most definitely reach out to me, and then I can kind of check and see what's going on there just within the link. But what I want to further note is that nowhere do you need to spend money to complete these assessments. So anytime information is free on the internet, as you know, you get all kinds of ads. So you got to be careful on what you're clicking on, but there should not be a fee that is associated. As we move in to me going over this module, there is one assessment that if you want to purchase a more detailed report, you can. I'll point that out to you, but you are not required to do that for this class at all. So definitely dive into this PDF file so you can understand how what our preferences in learning. And moving on to the next learning activity is the multiple intelligences. So here's where we talk about that assessment. This basically doesn't look at your IQ. It looks at other intelligences that we have. And you have the assessment to take, and then here's some links that are going to give you some ideas on what careers are linked with your areas and what are some study strategies that you can integrate into your courses. And again, this is all of your natural strengths. So these assessments are really going to kind of give you maybe sometimes confirmation of what you already thought, or maybe opening up your eyes to some things that you may not have thought of. So go through this slideshow. Make sure to pay attention to the 2 questions that are popped up here to prepare for that quiz, particularly that's going to be proctored through HonorLock 1 attempt. The next learning activity is an assessment to the VIA character strengths, and here is one here. This is where they talk about that if you want to buy a more in-depth report for $19. You do not need to buy this report though. But this assessment is going to kind of tell you where are you strong in your strengths. So we have the links provided here. We also have a YouTube video to kind of give you an idea of what does it mean, what do all these things, codes and such that they give you, how can you correlate that? Moving on to the next learning activity is critical thinking. So we have a little video here that describes about what critical thinking is. We have how you can improve your critical thinking skills, which is vital for today's employment, along with your college classes. But, it says right here, employers look for people who can critically think and come up with solutions. So here you're going to be able to take an assessment to see how strong are you in critical thinking and what professions are going to be best related to the critical thinking mentality, as well as how to use those in your college classes. So we have those links for you too. And here's that PDF file to kind of reinforce and give you some of the scientific data back on that. And then the next one we're going to look at is your creative thinking. So here is a link to creative thinking. And to assess your skills, we have career matches and study strategies. We all have strengths in one of these areas. We're either like maybe a strong critical thinker, strong creative, or practical thinking. And if you look at a team of any sort, say a family unit, you're going to have different individuals that are stronger in one area than the other. Not to mean that one's better than the other, but it is through a dynamic team, and employers look for getting a combination of everybody in their employment, so that they can have a balance, that they can have some people that can think creatively. Then we've got the practical, is it going to work out? And then the critical of how it's not going to work out, of how it is going to work out. So these are some great tools for you to kind of assess where your strengths. These things you can also bring forward as we look into future modules. When you're preparing your resume of what are you good at, it's not as much of where you worked, but what are you good at? What do you like best? And how do you prepare and approach things? So as you go through this slideshow, you're going to see 2 pop-up questions here also. Moving on to the next, which brings us to the Module 5 quiz, okay? And the Module 5 quiz is, as I stated, is going to be through HonorLock, okay? And so when we look at the HonorLock settings, I want to kind of go back to the modules here, and I have a file downloaded. Let me just pull that up here for a second. Thank you for being patient with me. So this information is in the module on your the requirements in order to do this proctored assessment. And again, I just want to emphasize to you, when you take online classes, this is something that you're going to see. And in this class, we're only doing 1 quiz. Oftentimes, you're going to find that every test or any assessment is going to be proctored with HonorLock. There are settings that an instructor can set up what you are and are not allowed. Like, for example, if you're taking a math class, they would probably allow a calculator. We're not calculating anything in this course except for our final grade, maybe. So it will identify for you what you can or cannot do. But please note this right here, that a desktop computer or laptop cannot be used. And it says right there, no tablets, iPads, or cell phones are permitted. So if you do not have a desktop or a laptop computer, again, you can come to any one of our campuses throughout the Quad County area, and we have computers in our tutor center that you can use. So you just want to check on the website to make sure you get their hours. It's always good to make a phone call, especially if you're making a drive. You need to have a working webcam. So I'm not going to go through all these line by line, but you're going to see this pop up in a announcement that I will put out. It's also in the module, but just to bring some attention to you here on what you can do and where to get assistance if you need it. So then moving on to Module 5, and the assignment is here. Let me just bring this over to here. You also, in this self-portrait assignment for Module 5, you also have the links in this document. you're going to complete the multiple intelligence self-assessment here. So there's a link to it. You're going to take this assessment and you're going to record all of your results. So it's going to show up in a bar graph. You could just go ahead and do a screenshot and put that in there. But after you record your results, you're going to use a minimum of 50 words of explanatory sentences of what this means to you by, describing how these results reflect your preferred learning style. So that's what this box is intended for. And what I think is I just want to reiterate is just all of your results, because it's also important for us to know what our strengths are, but also to know what our weaknesses are. And are we able to work on those? How can we work on them if that is something that we need to do? And then down below, you're going to use these links that are provided here, and you're going to identify 3 strategies that you can use in the classroom to help you with your preferred style. And then here's some connections that would match up with what your leading scores showed from this assessment. The second assessment you're going to do is the Myers-Briggs personality self-assessment. You're going to record your results, providing the 4 initials represented. When you get done, you're going to get 4 initials that will identify your top areas that you responded to. And after you record the results, then you're going to do the same as the first one. You're going to use a minimum of 50 words explaining this to you and how these results reflect your personality preferences. Now that you've identified what those preferences are, you can use this link and identify 3 strategies that you could start incorporating into your routine. And then here's some career connections based on your results. Okay. We come to the final assessment, and this is your character strength. Your character strength, the assessment's right here. Read this information on, the background of it. And then here's a link to your descriptive results with in-depth reports. So this one, we don't have a link that can correlate this to the classroom or to your career. So we're going to just have you utilize some critical thinking and just kind of reason within after reviewing the results, how can you use that? So first, you're going to record your results of your top 5 character strengths, and then you're going to write 5 explanatory sentences using positive adjectives that describe your top 5 strengths. So here, there's going to be 5 sentences here. Now, using the internet, research how you can use your strengths in the classroom. So this is where we've given you the sites before. Now we want you to kind of dive in and see what you can find based on your character strength. Explanatory sentences in the classroom connection along with the career connection will provide relevant details and examples. So again, this needs to be paraphrased in your own words. We simply cannot in college copy and paste information off the internet. I don't care where it comes from, whether it's from a research-based website or whether it's from artificial intelligence. We have to write these things in our own words, and that's why I've emphasized that on there. When you're done with that, you're going to go ahead and save your file and then submit it for the Module 5. And that would conclude Module 5 and moving on to Module 6.